talked a little bit about the story. I was just wondering, what struck me was, it's a business, and it's a micro business. It grows bigger and bigger, and it needs business support, in there. So the fact that the product is creative, I'm just wondering, was there anything in particular that stood out in terms of type of help that you got along the way from the public point of view? Because I'm coming from that perspective as well, from challenge with coming up with, well, how do you support? So we obviously ask people in the business. And similar question, I suppose, for Helen, because I don't know the history of why the past council is under Enterprise Ireland or otherwise, but it's kind of a marriage. I don't know how, maybe there's ups and downs in it, but it's kind of a marriage that has been tossed around the room a little bit to sort of say, okay, this supports, you're very much talking about micro enterprise support. And obviously with that, you have to bring in expertise and understanding craft business. But it strikes me that it should be crafts, arts, film. It's like the same set of steps across the whole industry. So I suppose my question to you is, do you find that? Do you think there's anything different that you're offering to the craft sector that's different than an enterprise board offers to micro SMEs, no matter what business they're in? So it's trying to get to that, what's that additional spark that you think, from both your perspectives, that public agencies should be watching out for?
Okay. In terms of kind of the supports that we offer that might be different than the and saying that we work very closely with the city and county enterprise boards. We would work together in partnership in terms of a number of different initiatives. So we're aware of the fact that they have a remit around supporting micro enterprise. So do we in relation to craft. And I think what the national perspective is important as well in terms of Enterprise Ireland. They have a limit, and I believe that's under discussion at the moment, which is stopping a lot of micro enterprise accessing larger amounts of funding, which they used to have a limit of. People had to employ more than 10 people. So I believe that may be changing. So in terms of specifically what we'll offer, I suppose it's very specific to the craft industry. So it would be one-on-one things like specific mentoring around design, around production practice. They would be unique to particular craft disciplines that maybe people in the enterprise boards wouldn't necessarily have that kind of expertise. There would also be quite a bit of expertise around developing small brands from a marketing point of view, branding, marketing, and how do you do that from a craft, what's unique about craft, and I suppose there would be an inherent competency in the organisation around that. So supports, I think I have to say that we're not a funding agency. We're not set up like the Arts Council. The Arts Council have a lot of money to give to artists. We don't. I think we give away less than €100,000 a year. So our primary focus is absolutely not funding.
In our situation, I suppose, Telegal definitely wouldn't have happened only for the background with Irish language and Údarás na Gaeltachta. Because Údarás has a special remit in Gaeltacht areas to promote the language, and it does that by supporting projects and creating employment that way to keep people in the Gaeltacht and maybe bring people back home. So from that point of view, we had ready support from Údarás who provides some capital grant assistance and also took an investment in the project, and it wouldn't have happened without that, quite honestly. RTE also invested a small amount, but RTE's role was to contribute maybe on the program side. So that's how the origins role, and we had some training systems as well. But most of those would be available to similar to projects in general. I suppose the fact that it was language based and that gave it an extra emphasis from Údarás's point of view. But then we're very much on our own after that, and we came across rocky times, and I remember at one stage it being said to ourselves that the future's in new hands. And today the company now is owned basically by the management. We did a management buyout a number of years ago, and I think that was in a way important because it's the management and the people who grow up with the company who have the skills and the expertise that are very, very valuable. And it's important for them to have a part in the company, but also it's important for the company to have people like that tied into the company because they have very, very valuable skills. Going forward then, we've mentioned the film board already today, and the Section 481 tax incentives, which have been improved this year. And I think that gives Ireland certainly a competitive edge on the UK. Film-wise, we're on a par, more or less. In fact, probably worse off than what we were a number of years ago, because the UK has improved its incentives. And most countries around the world now have offered incentives as well. So what would be on my wish list? I think the film board's role relates to film generally. They focus on film and they don't invest a lot in television. And our view is that from an economic point of view, a job creation point of view, and an ongoing concern, television has more to offer. And if you take one example, that is the Tudors. It came to Ireland 4 years ago. The film board did put some investment in there at the early stage to bring it to Ireland, which meant it came to Ireland and has spent 20 million in Ireland every year since then. So that's 4 series at 20 million, which is 80 million. If that was a feature or a movie came in, it was a once-off. Little chance of it being repeated. You don't really get repeats in television. But if a series is successful in television, the broadcasters will want more of it. In fact, one of the difficulties we have with Africa selling it overseas is 26 programs is not enough. They want 52 or 78. They want to be able to put it out every week for the year or every day for the week, and that's a weakness we have with it. So how can maybe I think the film board's remit and maybe more assistance for television, particularly on the development side, to help to get projects off the ground, because development can be very, very costly. And maybe in Wales, for example, they have an intellectual property fund, which it's a government fund that invests in projects that are intellectual property orientated. It could be software, it could be animation, or it could be anything that is capable of creating a brand or capable of creating future revenue streams. And we feel that's important in our situation, rather than us being just a service provider, which we were, and with little or no control over our own destiny. Not that we have a huge control over it now, to be honest, but at least we feel we have more control over it now by investing in the programs that we work on and retaining some ownership of that, so that creates future revenue streams for successful projects down the road. And it also adds value to your balance sheet, and hopefully strengthen the company going forward.
Okay, well, just maybe on the front, please. Is that okay? And then we'll...
Yeah, thanks very much for the presentations and the day. It was very interesting. Paul, it seems that you are a creative industry. You're innovative and smart and successful. And most of the time in business planning, it actually is constricting. You actually said, and I wrote down, that you didn't have a plan many times. So to me, at the end of the day, you are the capsule that represents what the conference is about, and you have done it so successfully. So do you have that in the formula?
Someone said once the only plan is with no plan,
Yeah.
but that's probably not being fair either. We did have a plan,
Yeah.
we had a business plan, but I said that changed very, very quickly, and that's normal for any business. Things change, businesses change, the environment changes. One man here mentioned earlier on today about European legislation blowing his business out of the water, and all businesses face that. I think it's how you deal with it. Sometimes you're lucky and you can deal with it, sometimes you're not lucky. We've gone through tough times, and all businesses, I'm sure, do, but I think we have some things that, I suppose, I think you mentioned the word tenacity earlier on, about getting here today and all that. I thought you were going to talk about our business. That's certainly a requirement in our business. You have to be prepared to listen to people saying no, but to go back and go back again, and hopefully that another commissioning editor has been changed, that someone else is in their place who likes your show, or whatever. And you have to push the boat and take chances. A lot of them don't work. We've been involved in projects where we spent quite a lot of money on development, and they still haven't seen the light of day, which I hope. But tenacity certainly is a big thing. Luck is another thing. And I suppose being willing to look at different alternatives and to shift as quickly as you can, without losing the values that you have. Because I think the values we have in the company, that we're based, where we are, we're proud of that. That's our origins, and we don't want that to change. And I think that gives us something, kind of an ethos. But at the same time, we want to be in London. We want to be working with BBC. We want to be in LA and that. And some of those things happen by luck, to be quite honest. You know, we never planned it that way. But then, you know, there's always tomorrow, and the sands can shift again. Government policy can change you know, as well. And that's why I think seminars like this, maybe that can influence government policy, are important.
Okay, I'll take 3 more, please.
Paul Dow from GMIT. Just to follow on kind of from Jeff's question there. Paul, if for yourself, if you were to pick up your business and plug it into the Midlands or Dublin, do you think you would be equally as successful, or what are the factors around Galway or things like that help to boost creativity in your business?
That's a very, very good question, because if you had asked me that question back in 1990, 92, I would have said we should be based in Dublin. And in fact, other people probably said the same thing as well, because our business was geared up for something that is normally in a city. It's, you know, and by being based where we were cutting off one big market that we didn't realise was so important, that was the advertising market. People who make commercials and that, you know, we could make commercials, but because we are where we are, we're not in with the agencies, they're not going to travel down here and produce commercials here. And commercial rates would be better than TV rates, quite honestly. So we were cut off at that very, very quickly. Whereas the companies that were based on that model in Dublin, they're now going through a tough time actually, because the commercials market has just gone, you know, it's reduced by about 30–40%. And a lot of them, but at the time that forced us to look at other innovative models at the time. Okay, we're not in Dublin, we're not there. What do we have? And I suppose we have an advantage that maybe our overheads are a bit lower. That's one thing. We can expand more quickly. Companies like ourselves could be in Mount Street or wherever in Dublin. For them to expand can be very, very costly, which means we can add capacity, and get involved in maybe bigger projects, maybe a bit lower margin with bigger projects. So, and people are surprised when they come to see us that we are where we are, because normally we are in the city or whatever. I suppose we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for, I suppose, the language and the cultural background. But
perhaps just add on to that a little and spread it out to show you, because I know Patrick showed the spatial map earlier that showed the sort of cluster around Spittle, I believe, and TV productions. I mean, we have other clusters. We have a cluster in Leitrim, for example, which you could try and explain away in low-cost housing and stuff, but that's not it. Because I've spoken to the people there, many of them have come from Temple Bar and places like that. There's Jamie Pictures and the like of this, and there's like fine arts. So it's a broad spectrum of creative people. And they come there, and when you look at it, it is that broad thing, quality of life. Whether it's linguistic, whether it's diaspora coming back, but in this case, actually,